Why would truth and integrity be a cherished UU value? I feel like I don't really have to ask you that question today, but it's the question that I've been pondering all week. The question comes in earnest as we thought about this sermon series and what cherished values guide our faith. These aren't theological points, but they're guiding heartbeats of the tradition that go back through history. They might have overlap with theological points, but they are the guiding values. It just happens that truth and integrity surfaces for us in this time, a time when they seem to be in short supply. This cherished value of our faith, truth and integrity, for us has always been the pursuit of truth. That is, the process over the product. We don't settle on easy answers, and we never will, but that puts us in a particular situation as a faith tradition. You might say, what? You don't tell us what to believe? And we answer, no. We tell you believing is a process that could take a whole lifetime to cultivate and a path that is worthy. We live in a world today where truth is relative to who you hear it from. Worse than that, we live in a world of practiced lies that have become so ingrained in us that millions of our neighbors and countrymen are willing to die hooked up to respirators because they believe so strongly that COVID is a hoax or the vaccine will kill them. Extremist politicians see ways toward popularity with the opportunity to divide and conquer us with half-truths and outright lies. We live in a time that resembles the Soviet strategies of information disinformation and distribution. The difference is then and now is that back then in Soviet Union, no one ever believed what the state said. And today, a large portion of our population is buying the lies fed to them. A year ago this past week, we saw what we hope was the pinnacle of lies turned into belief as we pass the January 6th anniversary. We hope we don't see that ever again. This week we remembered that those who believed the lies of leaders attacking our elections killed and injured the police trying to protect our democracy and our capital. We remember that lies become truths when they are believed. The capacity for self-deception has become an epidemic in our country that rivals COVID. Michigan State University philosophy professor Christopher Long says, we can deceive ourselves in the face of truth when we can choose to believe the lies we tell ourselves. We affect the deepest sincerity we own, but duplicity of conscience is impossible, he says in a hopeful way. Truth has a quiet insistence. A quietude is required to hear it. Truth is a value in our church. And I'm not saying we can't lie to ourselves, but we will always try to point towards something real. So I want to talk to you about 4 values of truth for Unitarian Universalism. The first in truth and our value in truth for us is that there are many truths, not just one. Just as we can find God in many forms and resist cartoon images of God that solves all our problems, we unite around the idea that the pursuit of truth is not finding a holy grail, but rather finding many. Barbara Kingsolver's beautiful essay that we read part of today, which is really about the condemnation of genetic engineering, but there is theology in her essay. When you see the hummingbird she points to, when you see it craft a nest, one strand of spider web and twig and lichen at a time, you utter the words, "My God." For some, she says, that is a prayer that thanks a human-shaped being on a cloud who waves a hand and dolphins magically communicate, or South Oak Cliff High School's quarterbacks win the state championship. And yet for others, she says, I made those last words up, but for others, she says, God is manifest in the awe of the timeless miracle the bird is. As she flawlessly makes a nest so perfect, no artist can capture its essence, my interpretation of what she said. For us both, those who see the God on the cloud and those who see the God in evolution, both can be true for us. But for most of us, the cardboard cutout God isn't true. What is true has integrity, like the natural beauty of life that we witness when we are silenced by awe. That stunned feeling of life-crushing beauty. My God, we say, always says there is not one truth but many. And a lot of people get really upset with us when we say this. For them, it can only be one way. There can only be one truth. The God of the Bible is the only certainty, they say, to which we ask, why? This infuriates them and pushes them to discount our version of religion altogether. We might feel like they have bought a theological lie shaped to comfort or control them. For us, as long as people don't turn their ideology into weaponry, the answer is there are many truths. Let them coexist. And our task as spiritual people, our task is not to discount another's truth, but to count them in the spectrum of truths. What is true for others always has some bearing on the truth in the world. The biblical God might not be sitting on a cloud with a ledger taking down every time we hurt someone and making a mark next to our name, but believing in that ledger might make some of us better people. So there are truths, revealed, not kept in a sacred vault. They are part of life unfolding. There are many truths. That is the first value of truth in Unitarian Universalism. The second value for us in truth is that it is revealed, that truth is revealed through experience, not theory. Sparing you the hate mail I have received over the last year, I want to share with you that if I lived my life according to those who condemn me for supporting a woman's right to an abortion, I would turn to a God who wants to end abortion and become an evangelist for restrictive laws. The theories that guide the anti-abortion activists who treat those of us who are helping pregnant people get abortions like agents of the devil are just that, theories. The whole narrative they spew, quoting the book of Revelation and other books in the Bible, is so fanciful and illogical that they seem like enraged Christians on the warpath to hurt anyone who doesn't agree with them. They seem blinded by their own terror that a woman might end a pregnancy or even make that choice herself. Seeing this play out in the courts and politics is like watching a bad movie about a lie that spreads to those in power to start a war, and a war they have started. It is a war on the poor largely, and on women mostly, and on all of us who will inherit public health crises of thousands and thousands of births and traumas, of fetal deaths and injuries. Their God, they are convinced, has it out for anyone who even thinks that they should have an abortion. Has it out for anyone who even tries to help someone have an abortion. That is theory. My God made all of what we see. The science of abortion and the life in the womb, however minuscule, and also the life of the person right in front of me, however flawed or whole. In my experience, I choose to honor the freedom on the faces and the lives of the women I help live emancipated lives, emancipated to have careers they want to have, emancipated from men they can't share a child with or wouldn't, emancipated from families they can't support. I choose to see God's love in the gratitude of a human being I can talk to about their life and what they can do. Talk to them about what they can do without having a birth or a fetus inside them. I choose to see God's love in the faces of those who choose pregnancy and birth, and also in the faces of those who choose not to be pregnant or have a birth. And I also see God in those who struggle for pregnancy and feel the pain of not being able to. For this I am called names not mentionable here, for a theory. But in my experience, it is those who are free who are also more loving and whole than those who are controlled and constrained. That is truth revealed in experience for me. You have your own experiences of all kinds that point to truths revealed. I ask you today to think on them and think about how we cling to theories at all cost without real experience. I call that a form of self-deception. And that is the third UU value of truth in our faith, that we can only change that what we are willing to confront, what we are willing to see. It means we have to cut through our own self-deceptions to see what is real, to experience the world, to put ourselves in proximity to those things we think we know about. Our own self-deceptions are wide-ranging in this country, from American essentialism to racism that erodes our faith in each other, to violence and lies that shape our national narrative. I watched the recent film Don't Look Up on TV this past week. It's great, I thought so, because in it, a comet is rushing to destroy the planet, and all around, we look for ways to avoid the truth. From entertainment news to tribal politics, from nihilism to faith. We try to latch on to a self-deception that this reality is not happening. The film is a condemnation of our avoidance of truth in all its amazing forms. We turn quickly away from what is real. COVID has the planet ill. We have a crisis of democracy on our hands, and some in power will do anything to take our power away from us. Disparities in our country are far worse than we realize, and environmental issues wide-ranging. In favor of what celebrity is in a breakup or what new lie we can tell ourselves so the crowds on social media can leverage us to new wealth or power, we entertain self-deceptions, not to face the truths. We can only change that which we are willing to confront. That brings truth into light in ways that can be painful and difficult. Shout out to all our church members who are working on racism and environmental issues and democracy and women's rights. They know that we can, but we have to get past our self-deceptions. The core of Don't Look Up leads us through that narrative. Will we awake to our self-deceptions as a nation and as individuals? Will we entertain ourselves to death, or will we face what is real? They ask these questions. And then in the end, and I won't spoil it for you, but I will say in the end there is one final truth that is coherent with Unitarian Universalism. That is, when all else fails, there is gratitude. That is the message of the book of Job, which is, I think, the inspiration for the ending of Don't Look Up. Job, whose health and wealth and family and children and friends are all destroyed. Everything is destroyed but his ability to listen to God in the end, to witness to the world around him, to see the hummingbird clearly. He ends the book restored and surrounded by family, repentant and humbled by a God of his world. And his only answer is thank you. At a table in the book of Job, he says a blessing surrounded by family and friends. And that is all that is left. The words, thank you. A truth no one can take away. Barbara Kingsolver writes in the essay that we read part of this morning, I only have to stand still for a minute and watch the outcome of 30 million years worth of hummingbird evolution transubstantiated before my eyes into a nest and egg to get knocked down to size. By the power vested in everything living, she writes, let us keep to that faith. Enter the doors of creation, not with a lion tamer's whip and chair, but with the reverence humankind has summoned for entering places of worship, a temple, a mosque, a cathedral, a sacred grove as ancient as time. One final truth she points to, and that is, in that sacred encounter is the quietude that Christopher Long speaks of, that we need to find truths. In deeper and deeper reflection on life, can we cut through self-deceptions? Can we quiet our hearts and minds enough to experience and encounter the awe in the world? Can we find that relates to our gratitude? Those are the UU values around truth. And we know that the more we deceive ourselves, in the end, the less capable we are of loving ourselves or each other. A diminished capacity to love has hindered our ability as a nation to respond to this debilitating pandemic and the reckoning of things like systemic racism and this crisis in democracy. And it has undermined our ability to quiet ourselves enough to see each other and to see God in its many truths. So I want to close with a famous book by Dostoevsky, The Brothers Karamazov, famous scene in which he emphasizes the connection between self-deception and love. When Father Zosima tells Fyodor Karamazov this, he says, above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to such a pass that he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others. And having no respect, he ceases to love. Friends, we see this breakdown all around us. We can take this advice and be part of the solution, or we can flow into the world of lies and untruths and let the world end in no love and disrespect. I say these words are good advice for us all. Words like the man once said, the truth sets us free. So let us live into them. So be it. And amen. Amen.